Hello and welcome to today's episode of Rev Folklore Reviews. Today we'll be taking a look at Witches by One-Eyed Doll. One-Eyed Doll is kind of a grungy, gothy, hard-rocking punk act out of a brain of Kimberly Freeman. Kim, much like Nate in my last review, is an old friend of mine from my old hometown of Roseburg, Oregon. Me and Kim went to high school together. She was in drama class with my sister. Later in high school we wound up hanging out and playing some shows together. After we were out of school we wound up playing a lot of punk shows and bars around town and got to hang out quite a bit. At some point Kim moved to Austin, Texas. I moved to Portland, Oregon, and we kind of lost touch for a few years. But when Kim was in Austin, she really stepped up her live show like a whole lot. She found a new drummer, Jason, sometimes goes by Junior, and made a bit of a name for herself in the hard rock world. She was featured in some magazines and even made an appearance on America's Got Talent. We reconnected a couple years back and have kept in touch ever since. Though it's been out for a couple years now, Witches is still the most recent full-length release from One-Eyed Doll, and probably the most ambitious and dynamic release in their catalog so far. Kimberly takes on a full concept album about the Salem witch trials. When this album first came out, I was told that they visited the historical site of the Salem witch trials, and after that visit, Kim basically went into the back of a bus for a day or two, and when she came out, she had written this whole album. This album takes a look at the historical events around the Salem witch trials, and even includes a lot of direct quotes from people who were there at the time. The first track, Ember, heavily quotes from a notebook of Rev Samuel Parris, who is one of the major players in the events that unfolded. The track starts off slowly, just fading in with a voice that is quoting the Reverend, and then it erupts into this explosion of brutal drums and heavy guitars and Kim shouting, "My soul's an ember in the flames of hell!" This song has a lot of dark imagery in it, and it kind of comes off like a nightmarish, demonic, hallucinatory sort of thing happening. It really gets started with a bang though. It gets this album rolling right off the gate. The song leads right into the next song, a song called Prayer, which is a softer song, more acoustic guitar driven, but it's a song that's kind of pleading for the strength to be able to murder those who are perceived as evildoers during the witch trials. Has a line in it, "May the rivers flow with the blood of the damned." Cheery stuff. Things pick back up quickly with the fast and heavy Black in the Rye. This song is based on a more recent theory about the witch trial hysteria, that people may have been tripping or having hallucinations that they couldn't explain. And this may have been caused by a black mold that grew on rye. So people may have just been on drugs. Apparently this mold has a similar effect on the brain that LSD would have. Huh. The next two songs are accounts of, or possibly tributes to, two individuals who were killed during the trials. The first of these songs is called "Rope for Mary." It's a song for Mary Esty, who was a Christian wife and mother, and she was accused of being in compliance with Satan. And she was killed after being put in prison. I guess she was put in prison for a couple of months, released for some reason, then they decided to throw her back in prison, and then they hung her. The next song is called "More Weight." It's a song for Giles Corey, who was a local farmer, who along with his wife was accused of witchcraft, and then after pleading not guilty, he was crushed to death with stones over a 3-day period. This was apparently seen as a legal loophole at the time, and a way to get him to confess to being in league with the devil, but he refused to confess to working of Satan, to the point where it's reported that he said more weight a couple days into it, asking them to put more stones on him instead of confessing to such a thing. Yeah. After that, we get a instrumental track called Remember. Just has some acoustic guitars and mandolin with some light banjo and violin. It kind of serves as an intermission about halfway through the record. Just a nice palate cleanser. And then things start back up pretty quickly with the spooky rocker Witch Hunt, which is a song about the accusers and the trials and their accounts of the happenings. After that is a song called Stillness. It's a 6-minute long, kind of low tempo, slow build song. It starts off with some banjo and mandolin playing, and then it builds up into these swells of drums and these huge sounding guitars with Kimberly's voice just kind of floating over the whole mix. After that is one of my highlights from the album, a song called Afflicted. It's a song that brings together a lot of the elements and themes we've seen on the album so far, but it also kind of introduces this deal with the devil or a selling your soul kind of aspect to it. At least that's how it seems to me. It kind of seems to introduce this Robert Johnson and the Crossroads sort of scenario. Like when the now famous blues musician Robert Johnson was at the Crossroads and reportedly made a deal with the devil, and he left like this great musician after that. It has this line in it, the great black pen he gives to me and offers all that I can dream, to rule me with his hand and see forbidden golden lands so free. There's that. The song also has a really good music video, so I recommend you take a look at that. The concluding song on the album is The Ghosts of Gallows Hill. It's a song about the ghosts of people who died in the witch trials and them encouraging us to remember them and the stories of the past. The song's another big highlight for me on the album, with these huge sounding guitars, and also has these cool swirly synth arrangements, and also a great vocal performance from Kim. I also really like the outro to this song. It's got this ethereal kind of synth part that just kind of nicely leads you out of the song and is a nice kind of end on the album. So my initial impression of the album is, well, the packaging. It's got this cool artwork on the front and back by Aaron Brodner. And open it up, and it has the CD. The face itself there is the moon, which is always a good idea. It has an insert in here, and you open it up here and it says, "In memory of those who lost their lives to the Salem Village witchcraft hysteria of 1692. And it's got some illustrations in here. You probably can't see those very well, but at the end here it says "Remember," and it has a list of names, presumably the victims of the Salem witch trials. So my parting thoughts on the album is that it's definitely one of the stronger releases from One Eyed Doll. It may not have insanely catchy crowd favorite songs on it, nothing like Be My Friend, for instance, but I think it has a much better overall arc to it. On this album, Kim really commits to the themes and makes an album that explores the historical events of this really controversial event that happened. To this day, we still don't really understand exactly what happened. It's almost like this insane thing happened and then just everyone kind of wakes up in a daze one day and moves on. There's not really a whole lot recorded about it, but Kim takes the subject matter and approaches it in a way that doesn't feel too heavy-handed. It doesn't really tell you what to think about the events for the most part, and that's something I think is a good move on this one. Again, I think it's one of the most fully realized One Eyed Doll albums to date. There's some memorable songs on it. It's really dynamic. It has parts on it that are just brutal and heavy, and then it has other parts that are quieter and lets you breathe. Makes it easier to take it in, having peaks and valleys. And since this is a concept album, you will be rewarded if you give it multiple listens. It'll give you a chance to soak in the themes and the characters who are introduced. So I'd encourage you to take a listen to this and other One-Eyed Doll releases, including the Something Wicked EP, which is actually a more recent release than Witches, but it's an EP, but it's still worth checking out. It's got a couple really good songs on it. And on a side note, sadly One-Eyed Doll is currently on hiatus. I know there's a lot of folks out there who are really looking forward to them coming back out on the road and getting back at it. But until then, there's a whole lot of songs and several albums and some really great music videos of theirs you can check out. So I guess that's it for today. I'll leave some links so you can take a look at them if you like. Also, I'd encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe if you want. It's not my job to tell you what to do. You just should. Thank you guys for listening, and have a great day.